Hi everyone. This coming Sunday is Mother's Day, so just a quick reminder to husbands and to children to do something special for your mom and for the mother of your children, just to show them how much you appreciate them, how much you love them, and just treat them nice this weekend. I'm excited about Mother's Day because I got to hear one of my favorite preachers share about Jesus' relationship with his mom, and I'm looking forward to that. There's also an awesome piece of special music that's going to be part of this service that's been put together by some of the dedicated members of Grace who spent several hours putting it together for us. So don't miss out on worship this week. Here at Grace, we usually use Mother's Day to honor all the women of our congregation because each one of them has a special place in building faith within our community of faith. And I was reminded about the importance of that earlier this week when I was listening to a seminar. The leader made reference to Judges 2, verse 10, where after the death of Joshua, who led Israel to take possession of the promised land, we read, "After that whole generation had been gathered to their ancestors, another generation grew up who knew neither the Lord nor what he had done for Israel." There was a failure by that first generation in the promised land to pass on their faith and their knowledge of God to the next generation. So that generation then wandered away from God. I think it's a really sad moment in Israelite history. I think they probably took their faith for granted and thought that there would be plenty of time to share their stories, and then they just didn't. By contrast, I remember the words of 2 Timothy chapter 1. "I remind you," Paul wrote to Timothy, "I remind you of your faith, which first lived in your grandmother and then in your mother, and now I'm persuaded lives in you." Paul could look at Timothy and he could say, don't forget what you learned from your mother and from her mother before her. That faith that was passed on to you is what's going to see you through your life. A few verses later, Paul is going to tell Timothy, do not neglect to pass on to others what has been passed on to you. I had the blessing in my early years of having several people who spoke faith into my life at an early age. Certainly my dad was a man of faith, and there was a man in my church who I remember quite well was one of my early Sunday school teachers who taught me some of the stories of Jesus. But I have a real deep appreciation of the women in my life who are very intentional about helping me learn what it means to be a follower of Jesus. I remember my mom as the one who championed family devotions and Bible stories when I was a child. I remember a single woman in our church, a nurse at the children's hospital, who led one of the children's programs at our church. She came to me as a 12-year-old and she said, "Why don't you come help me teach the kids?" And she invested 4 years of mentoring into me as a young leader. We would get together once a month, plan out lessons, and figure out what we were going to do with the kids. And even in my family today, I might be the pastor, but Lisa has been the imaginative and the fun mom who found creative ways to highlight faith, to tell the stories of Jesus during such things as Holy Week and Advent and in so many other ways. And this time right now that we are in is a great moment to be able to spend time with family and to invest in sharing your faith so that this next generation will not be like that generation of Israelites who forgot what God had done for his people. So I want to say thank you, moms and grandmothers and aunts and women who just care and who take the time to share their faith with this next generation. I want to say thank you to the ladies who volunteer at Grace here in the nursery and in children's church and in youth group and at Graceland and other kids programs. I want to say thank you to the ladies who just help make this a welcoming place, who prepare the coffee for us, who usher and who serve on boards and committees and just help us as a people of God share our faith so that we will not lose a generation that doesn't remember God. Thank you, ladies who take the time to encourage stressed out moms and just tell them that they're doing a good job. You show by your words and by your examples what it means to love God and to love others and to follow Jesus. And I hope and I pray that we are all people who are intentional about sharing our faith with the next generation. Because when crises come, and they always do, how we handle them is very dependent upon how solid a foundation we have in our hearts and in our souls.